Hello YouTube, welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial I will walk you through how to use XPATH with WebDriver. In the previous video we have created this script that went to google.com, input ABC into the search field, retrieved some attributes from the buttons and the image, and then clicked the search button and then went to ABC homepage by clicking the link. So in today's video we're gonna kind of modify this script and we're gonna use XPATH instead of all of this different selectors that we used before. So we're gonna replace the selectors with XPATH. So first thing, let's go ahead and create a new Python file. Call it XPATH tutorial. And then I'm just gonna go here and copy everything to this new file. Now we probably don't need this anymore. We'll just keep this guy. We'll leave this as is for now. Oh, one more thing I'll show you is how to get the text from an element as well, because that's something I did not show you, and we actually do have a label here for like Gmail. Or well, I mean, it's not really a label, but it's a link, but we can get the text from a link as well. So, but before we start working with XPaths, let's actually download a tool that will help us out. So it's going to be a Chrome add-on that we'll have to download. So the add-on, I believe, is called XPATH Helper. So let's see, I don't remember for sure which one it is, but let's take a look. I don't think that's the one. Yeah, it's this one. It's the XPATH Helper Wizard. So let's install that, add extension. So that's it. Install the extension. Now this is the extension that we want. And let me see, maybe we need to reload the page. Let's go to google.com, see if it works. Yep, it does. Okay. So basically over here you have 3 different text fields. This is the one you want. This is where you want to create your XPath query. This button over here can move this window up or down. And this window here will show you how many results are found for your XPath. So remember in the previous video when we tried to search by the tag name for the image, we got the wrong logo, and I said that's probably because there are multiple images on the page, but some are hidden. So let's take a look at how many images we have on this page. So we're gonna start off by doing the // and then we're gonna input the tag. So we're gonna say image. Now on this page it tells me that there are 2 images. Now it highlights one. I'm not sure where the other one is, but if we look through the DOM, I'm sure we can find it. But we're actually not gonna be doing that because that's just gonna waste a lot of time. So, but we know there are 2 images on this page with this XPath. Now, if we actually want to isolate or create XPath specific to this image, what we can do is we can do the brackets And then inside the brackets we can actually specify certain properties, or as they're also called, attributes. So attributes, here we have source or ID or alt, style. All of these attributes, all of the properties with the equal sign can be treated as the attributes. So let's use ID for this particular one. So we're gonna say we're looking for image with ID which equals to HP logo. So now you see that it found one image which matches this XPATH. Now we could also replace this with something else. So let's see if we say alt equals Google. No, we still have two different images for that XPATH. But you could say and ID equals HP logo. So you can see you can actually chain different attributes in the XPATH, and that's something you cannot do with the regular selectors that you have here. So that's one of the benefits of using XPATH, is you can filter out at a more granular level as far as what which HTML elements you're looking for. Now XPATH is very powerful tool, but you are paying a price for using it, and the price you pay is the performance, because depending on how complex the page is, WebDriver has to go through the entire DOM to find what matches your expression. And the more elements you have in the DOM, which is like all these elements, the more elements you have, the slower it's gonna be to find your tag by the XPATH. So as a general rule of thumb, you do want to use ID. This is the best approach. Now this does have some limitations. I'm not gonna go into it right now because it's more on a much higher level where these limitations will be encountered. This is more towards like when you're creating frameworks, very scalable frameworks with certain objects, or not even objects, but components, and those components could be inherited on different pages. So basically you creating page objects and you inheriting components that you have created previously to kind of speed up your page object creation. But that's kind of more complicated stuff. I will probably cover it in some later videos. But for now, just know that this is the best selector to use, by.id. But XPATH is the most flexible selector by far. You can use XPATH to create any kind of expression to locate any kind of element on the page, whereas all the other selectors cannot offer you this kind of flexibility. Because you can use XPATH to find selectors or HTML elements that don't have IDs, don't have pretty much anything. They can be like completely empty. And I can maybe try to show you an example here in this video, if I can find some tag that doesn't really have anything. But anyway, let's just roll with it. So that's how you create kind of basic XPaths. But let's go ahead and actually rewrite our script. So we're gonna change the the selector for the edit field to XPATH, and let's go back here and create XPATH for this edit field, which is input. When we type input, we see that there are 8 different tags matching the input tag. So we need to kind of limit, saying that this is the tag that we're looking for. And the way we do this is by using these brackets, and inside the brackets we specify certain properties for this element. And those properties are specific to that particular element. So we can actually go ahead and use name. We can say name equals q, and we see that this XPath returns only one match, which is what we're looking for. Anytime we're working with XPaths, we want to make sure that once we're done creating the expression, we only have one result that matches that expression. Otherwise we'll have problems. So, and this is the attribute that I used. I used this attribute name equals q. So you can see me referencing name here equals q. So I'm just going to copy this value and I'm going to put it inside here, replacing what we had before. And I'll keep send keys because I still want to type ABC into the edit field. So now next we want to get the source for the image, and now we can actually create a proper pointer to the image, which we couldn't actually do before, I think. Let me see. Actually, no, we could use ID on here, which would point to this particular image, but I think we used image tag before, right? Yes, we used the tag name, so that's why it returned a different image. But if we assume that this image does not have ID, then the only way to point to this image, it would probably be, let's try this image. Okay, so maybe we could create a little bit different XPath. Let's start, I'm gonna start from this, let me see, I'm gonna start from this element, from this div with ID LGA. So I'm gonna say I'm looking for a div with ID equals LGA that returns this element to me. Sorry. And we have the image inside this element. So now we can do slash and then we can do image. So you can see this points specifically to this image. Now this may even work if we do something like that. Yep, that also points to this same image. But if the other image that was found before also has a div before it, it could return 2 results here as well. But the other image, I guess, is being inside a different element other than the div. So that's why this works. So I'm actually gonna copy this and paste it right inside, and we change this to XPath. Now we're gonna find the button element by XPath as well, so let's inspect it. So this button is off, has a tag input, so we're gonna start with input, and we're gonna use the name here, name attribute here as well. So I'm gonna say name equals btn k, and that's good enough for this XPath. Now we're gonna paste it in here, change this to XPath, and we're gonna get the attribute Now, to keep this more interesting, we're going to create a more complicated XPath for this button. So we're going to keep this XPath, and from this point, from this button, we're going to find this button. Okay, so this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do slash, and we're going to use following keyword sibling. So we said following sibling, and we're looking for input. Okay, so basically this is a special keyword in XPath that basically says, okay, we are starting here, and then we're gonna jump to the following sibling, and following sibling basically means an element on the same indent level, right? So input, then we have input. If you said following sibling from this element, then it would return all of these divs to us. If, say, we had multiple inputs from this point on, if because we only have one input, that's why it's sufficient enough to just say input here. But if you had multiple ones, then we may have had to like specify the index, maybe index 1. If you wanted to click, if you had 3 buttons here, then maybe we would want to say index 2, and then instead of this button, it would, you know, pick up the 3rd button, which would be somewhere here. That's just an example. And on my website, I have a website that I haven't been really developing much lately, but I do have templates over here with the keywords that you guys can use to build your XPaths, and I'll give a link to this in the video description so you guys can check it out. But basically, this is the one that we used. This is the keyword that we use. So basically we're here and we're looking for the following sibling. So in this case, this is the elements that will be accessible to us if we use this keyword. If we use keyword following, for example, and we're here, it will return the siblings and the children for those siblings as well. So this would return like more complete more elements than this. So same thing with like preceding. If you're here and you want to get the preceding elements, you call preceding, and then it'll return everything preceding to this element, which includes the siblings and the children's of those siblings. But if you call preceding dash sibling, it will only return the preceding sibling from where you are. It will not return you the children. So play around with it. It's probably sounds complicated if you're just a beginner with the XPaths, but this is very, very powerful stuff. And if you know how to use these keywords, you can build some amazing XPath expressions, and knowing this will improve your potential at building very scalable frameworks, because you can think of some very creative design patterns that will fit your project in a very good way. So definitely check this out. So back to our goats. Let's see where we are. So okay, so we build XPath to get this button. So let's leave the index in here. So basically we're here and we're looking for the following sibling, which is going to be the next input, and we make sure to specify that it's the very first input tag that follows where we are, which is we are here, which is this element, and next one, the very first input element after this is this, right? So that's what this XPath means. So now we go into our script, we paste that value in, we change this to the XPATH. Also, we leave the attribute in here. Now let's go ahead and get text value, which I didn't show in the previous video how to do, but this is going to be a very common thing that you'll probably be doing in your scripts. So here we have a link, and this link has text, and the way I know that this is actually text and not like a value attribute is because this is between this link tags, right? We have the a tag in here, which is the opening tag, and then we have a closing tag, and then we have a value in between. So anytime you have something like this, you automatically should expect to being able to get the text value from an element like this. So let's create an XPATH to find this element, and it's a link. And I could say text equals Gmail, which will by the way, notice that when we specify text in the XPATH, and you will be doing something like this, I guarantee you, this is a very common attribute to pass in, but the way you specify text is not with the @ symbol. It's actually a function. You call a function, so it's text and then two bracers, and then you give the value for the text. So that returns one result. Another way we could probably do it is to reference this attribute data PID, and the PID is 23. Actually, that returns two different results. You could maybe use index. Nope. No, you can't really use index. So maybe you could use class, but I think the other class is probably going to be the same. But we can try it actually. Let's try to use class equals GB_P. Actually, that returns. Okay, and then we can use the data PID equals 23. So now we got one result. But you could also use the text. For this particular example, since we are trying to get the text, I assume that we don't know what the text is, and sometimes you will have cases like this when text is going to be dynamically changed. So you'll have to use something else. So instead of getting the attribute value for this, we're actually going to get text. So this is how you retrieve a text value from an element that has it. Okay, now we have this button, and this is the button. So we type ABC, and this is the button that we need to click next. Where are you? Okay, so this is going to be input, and I don't want to use the value here because this button also has value Google search, and it's also input. So we'll actually use class here the same way we used it in our previous script. So we're going to say class equals LSB. Right, so class equals LSB. That should be, actually it returns two different two different buttons, but I guess it'll still click this first because this button comes first in the DOM. So that's actually why it worked in a previous script as well, but actually it returns two of these buttons. But if you want to be absolutely sure that it clicks the button that we need, we can actually specify the value here as well. So we can say and value equals this. So now we see that it limits the result only to 1, and that's the one we want, right? Yep, this is the one that it's going to click now. So that's good enough. Let's go back to our script, paste that in, by XPATH, click, and the link. So next we need to do the link. And this is okay. So now I'll actually show you how to create or how to use keyword in XPATH that does not search for a value for the exact match, but actually checks whether the tag contains certain value, because that's also very useful when you're creating the XPATH, because not all the time the class will equal an exact value. Not always text is going to equal to exact value. It may change. So you need to know how to create XPATHs that contain certain value and not exactly match the exact value. So so we're looking for a link, and there's a bunch of different links over here. So this is what I'm looking at here, and this link contains text, right? So we're gonna call the text function. One way we could do this is create expression like this, and it would return a result. Or we can say contains, and then we do the brackets, and then instead of the equal sign we put a comma. And then we put the text that we're looking for, that we want to check that the link has. So in this particular case we get one result here, which is good. So let's go ahead and put that XPATH in and click on it. So let's see if this script actually works. It should do the exact same thing the previous script did, but it should also print out Gmail from the label here. So let's run it and see what happens. Okay, that should finish. Yep, that's what it did. So we got the image, and this time we got the correct let me close this. This time we got the correct source for the correct image. So we were looking for this one, 272 by 92, 272 by 92. So yeah, and then we got the label or the text from Gmail link from here. So but we got all of this using the XPATH. So that's how you guys can use XPATH to find different elements. I hope this video helped you out. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share if it did, and take care. Thank you for watching.